Hi everyone, I'm Karen Daglish and I'm the Delivery Manager for the Seascapes Partnership. And I'm here today to tell you all about the inspiring work that the partnership is tasked with delivering over the next few years and hopefully inspire some of you to join us on our journey. Maybe you can share your memories, stories and knowledge of this special section of the coast and marine world with us. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned something new, and my contact details will be on the very last slide for you to be able to get in touch with me at the end. Firstly, what do we mean by seascape? There are many definitions, but the ones I like the best are the most simple. The Oxford Dictionary tells us that it means a picture or view out to sea. More wordy definitions talk about the interactions between land and sea, driven by natural and human factors. There's no doubt that a seascape's character is a result of the way in which people and place interact and how it is understood and experienced by people. It's emotive, conjuring up images of fish and chips, paddling in the sea, or more recently, paddleboarding and open water swimming for those brave enough. Here's the seascape of my childhood. Days playing on the beach, in this case North Wales, when my parents were no doubt wrapped up against the bracing wind. My brother and I did not have a care in the world. Of course, there was always fish and chips after a day at the beach, and it really is a joy to see my own children having the same experience now. Nostalgia is a very powerful emotion. But enough of my childhood memories. Perhaps nowhere more so than this stretch of coastline between the rivers Tyne and the Tees has there been so much impact on the seascape due to the interaction between people and nature. Rather than look inland, Seascapes, the project, is very much about looking out to sea. This map shows where our project work will be taking place. From the England coast path, a golden thread joining all the communities together along the coast, to 6 nautical miles out, a total area of 359 kilometres squared. Most of us have not had the good fortune of exploring this area as yet. Before I tell you about what's to happen in our projects, I'd like to take a moment to remind you about some of the human pressures our seascape has had to endure over the years. Over 100 years of industry, particularly coal mining, left stretches of the Tyne to Tees coastline as a blighted landscape. The last pit in Easington closed by the mid-90s. Here it is in the background of this photograph of Easington Colliery, which, by the way, is now an area of thriving nature reserve that is well used and extremely well cared for by local people. I would really encourage you, if you haven't been, to drive down to Easington Nature Reserve and have a look around, particularly on a sunny day when you can access this beautiful stretch of coastline. Many of you will know about the remarkable success of Turning the Tide, a programme which saw the removal of over 1 million tonnes of colliery spoil and associated debris, reclaiming land and regenerating the coastline for both wildlife and people. So here's a picture of Easington Colliery in 1992. before remediation work started to take place. Here is the same view in 2010, the year in which the area won the UK Landscape Award. The recovery of large sections of the coast has been dramatic, leading to the area being officially designated as a heritage coast in 2001. The Heritage Coast Partnership has been a driving force in what has been achieved since, and if you get the chance, I'd urge you to listen to my colleague Neil Benson tell you about the story of the remediation process. He's got some amazing photographs and some more recent ones as well, taken by drone and further 10 years on from the photograph that we see here. In the meantime, I think this short film, which focuses actually on the Durham stretch, tells us all about the success of the works. There might be a slight pause before the film starts. It's just coming up. There we are. So not only have we won an award, but we also have an array of designations to protect our wildlife. The Durham coast is the only example of vegetated sea cliffs on magnesium limestone exposures in the UK, with a complex mosaic of grasslands, tall herb fern, sea pitch flushes, and wild pruned scrub. It's not just plant life. Some of our feathered friends are protected too. Teesmouth and Cleveland Special Protection Area was designated back in 1995 for its numbers of breeding little tern, passage sandwich tern, wintering red knot, and passage common redshank. This protection was extended in 2020, so just last year, to add breeding avocet, breeding common tern, and non-breeding ruff as protected features. And you can see the map shows you here some of these special areas that the Tyne to Tees coastline has. Going back to the little terns for a moment, they've had and continue to have a rough ride. Pressures from the elements and sadly humans means that some years see no chicks fledging and the colony failing. SeaScapes is funding Durham Wildlife Trust to put wardens on watch during breeding season to give these visitors every chance of breeding success. But that's all about what we can see. What about what we can't see? What is underneath the waves? After all, it had millions of tonnes of coal dumped on it too. Survey dives conducted back in 1991 as part of the Marine Conservation Review reported areas depleted of life, with great evidence of the impact of man's activities. Indeed, at that time, there was very little tourism in the area. To understand more about the recovery beneath the waves, the Heritage Coast Partnership has supported annual sea search dives since 2009 to track the seabed recovery and record biodiversity. The good news is that these once murky waters filled with coal fragments and dust from the mining waste are now showing off their riches to divers with up to 5 metres of visibility. It's a pipe dream for the 1991 divers who found photography impossible at some of their survey sites. Where 20 years ago the shores and the seabed were black with colliery spoil, we now have a seascape teeming with wildlife. I've just shared a couple of the beautiful photographs that some of our volunteer divers have been taking and sharing with the project. So as we saw earlier, the coastline is designated in various places, sites of special scientific interest, special areas of conservation and special areas for protection. But no such protection yet exists underwater. This is a symptom of lack of data. During the selection process for marine conservation zones, marine managers lack sufficient data for the Tyne to Tees inshore waters to put forward formal recommendations for designation, despite the unique magnesian limestone geology. This lack of data was a key driver for the various organisations in their initial discussions about developing the Seascape scheme. Without it, we cannot fully understand the condition of our seascape and its rich heritage, let alone properly manage it. So, combined with poor public perceptions, which is the legacy of heavy industry, high levels of antisocial behaviour in some of the hotspots, a lack of coastal identity in some of the former ex-mining communities, has the Tyne to Tees coast just become a nice place to walk the dog? But with the advent of the England Coast Path, which is launching next year, you will be able to make your way around the entire stretch of the England coast. This includes an uninterrupted stretch from the Tyne down to the Tees, or vice versa. More people will be experiencing our seascape than ever before. So we thought it deserved better. Aware that this was a seascape brimming with potential, partners such as Durham Wildlife Trust and the National Trust got together with the Durham Heritage Coast team at Durham County Council to look at what could be done to engage communities and protect its future. Fast forward 4 years and a successful bid to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and SeaScapes is born. We have been entrusted to deliver a project over 4 years worth nearly £5 million when you factor in volunteer time. I'd like to now introduce you to some of those projects and bring you up to date with where we are. Firstly, every project has a vision, so I'd like to share ours with you now. To reveal the hidden heritage of this unique seascape, engaging its coastal communities and igniting stewardship of this amazing place for generations to come. Every project should have legacy running throughout it, and certainly igniting stewardship is a huge part of what we will be doing. Back to the map for a moment. The project boundary encapsulates the magnesium limestone seascape framed by the Tyne and the Tees. It is the foundation of this seascape both above and below the water, forming the characteristic yellow cliffs and rocky seafloor. The seaward limit of the scheme, 6 nautical miles out, matches the inshore zone as delineated for marine management purposes. It also mirrors the underwater extent of the characteristic geology which has formed the seabed. Having the England Coastal Path as the inland boundary means that we maintain our maritime and marine focus. Let's not forget, though, that communities down the coast shape and have been shaped by the seascape. So what are we going to do? Here's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of our projects under 3 main themes. Firstly, seascapes over time. This tells the incredible story of the Tyne to Tees seascape from the Tyne Sea through ice ages, wars and significant industrial history up to the present day. With its long industrial history and a number of notable ports, it's not surprising that the Tyne to Tees coast has been a key target for countries at war with Britain. Much of this history has left little trace, but standing coastal defence structures tell the story of Anglo-Scottish warfare, pioneering Victorian artillery and 2 active world wars. These ports were vital to Britain's international trade, as well as ship sources and products throughout the UK. The communities and coasts have been shaped by centuries of attempts to make the sea safer. Seaton Highlight, here on the left, and Beacon Tower, the white structure on the right, both at Hartlepool Marina, remind us of how treacherous this stretch of coastline is, with rough seas, sudden huge storms, hidden sandbanks and rocks. Certainly at the time of doing this presentation, the weather's been atrocious and the waves have been absolutely huge. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near Hartlepool Headland right now. The dangers to shipping were huge and river mouths difficult to access. Many ships were wrecked, often heartbreakingly witnessed from land. Navigational infrastructure, such as these lights, tell the story of the challenges of keeping ships and their crews safe. We will be carrying out further survey work on these listed buildings in order to make more informed decisions about their future management. Also being improved through the funding is Redacre Point at Sea and Marina, which is a former fort and an Artesian limestone, and that will become made safe and made into a viewing point. You can see north and south on the coastline from there. And the Grade 2 wave basing battery at Sunderland Port, which was built by the War Office in around 1859 to 60 in response to a fear of French invasion. How we experience the coast has changed over the years. Working with Living History North East, we will capture the sounds and sights of the seascape, from people seeing aircraft for the first time as bombers flew overhead, to practice artillery ranges and fishing boats guarding the England War Channel, to families enjoying a day out, as seen here at Crimdon. We will train volunteers to capture memories, working in schools so that children are involved in an intergenerational exchange between different ages to reveal the hidden heritage and connect our communities with the past. We're really looking forward to starting our guided walks with Professor Dave Roberts from Durham University, who promises to evoke an appetite for learning about the area's geology, such as this outcrop of a Permian reef system at Seaham. For those unable to join us, we will have a 3D virtual field trip and an animation on a recently completed modelling of North Sea glaciation. Keep your eyes peeled for dates this summer. Much of our seascape heritage is hidden, from submerged prehistoric landscapes to the amazing mosaic of seabed habitats strewn with shipwrecks. Estimates of the number of wrecks within the seascape area vary widely, but they are likely to be in excess of 300. Out of sight and out of mind, these forgotten wrecks tell a crucial chapter of the seascape story, that of its industrial might, fueling the empire in war and at peace. This is the wreck of the Lonclara, a hopper barge converted to a cargo steamer that sank off Hendon Rock, with the unfortunate loss of 4 lives. Maritime archaeology and biodiversity are often by their nature inaccessible, lying deep below the waves. Will be interested to know that Newcastle University will be training local divers in the latest 3D photogrammetry underwater techniques to video shipwrecks and produce 3D shipwreck and reef models, showcasing their significant maritime and natural heritage. These models will then be used to develop virtual reality shipwreck and nature dives, bringing the undersea to life. So those of us unable to dive can still experience what lies below the waves without getting our feet wet. This is a protected maritime wreck within the project area, an 18th century oak collier brig at Seaton, Carew, breached during a storm, possibly on its way to Hartlepool or the Tees. Maybe it was one of 29 vessels reported as being stranded or lost on the 11th of October, 1824, in the vicinity of Seaton, Carew, following a particularly violent storm. Other theories are that it is the brig Granite, carrying a cargo of loam and a crew of 8, headed for Middlesbrough from London. The 13th of November 1888, as it was trying to enter the Tees, it broke up, and despite attempts, all crew were lost to the sea. It largely lay hidden, covered by sand, until exposed in 1996, following a storm. Imagine if we can rebuild this using augmented reality and tell the story of maritime trading routes and the risks faced by the crew. We also want to provide opportunities for people to explore, discover and recall the natural heritage of the intertidal zone, the wondrous area where the ocean meets the land between high and low tides. Through a range of activities and citizen science initiatives, communities will learn about the wildlife around them and the species that coexist with people and the built environment. From beach tots discovering the small world of the rock pool, to former colliery workers who have watched seabirds raise their future generations each spring, we want as many people involved as possible. Led by Durham Wildlife Trust's Title Interactive Officer, there will be a full programme of activity starting this summer as COVID restrictions start to ease also. Parents, grandparents and carers will be welcome to bring preschool children to our beach tot sessions, which will focus on creative play and exploration of the coast in a fun way. Families will explore landmarks around them, giving them the confidence and ideas for spending time outdoors at the coast together in a responsible way. Beach rangers will be around age 14 to 18, activities such as photography, underwater filmmaking and wildlife recording. They'll be able to investigate how the coastline has changed and how people and wildlife can coexist. The story of the Seascape will then very much be told from their perspective. 4 coastal groups, similar to the Wildlife Trust's existing wildlife groups, will provide a platform for training sessions, talks and activities of volunteers and interested members of the public. The groups will be inclusive to all, from beginners to the more experienced, with training such as marine mammal identification, wetland bird surveys and butterfly monitoring. Activities such as attending ringing of coastal birds, moth recording and rocky shore bioblitzes will develop a greater enjoyment and appreciation of the natural environment. Speakers from local bird clubs and wildlife experts will increase awareness of a wide range of environmental issues and other projects happening across the region. If you're interested in the species-rich habitat along the coastal cliffs and slopes, the National Trust will be looking for volunteers to help protect and conserve it. Particular interest to us are invertebrates such as glowworms, slowworms, green tiger beetles and the common lizard. Butterfly monitoring and habitat creation for butterflies will benefit the Durham Argus butterfly, which is seen here, and found, as the name suggests, only in County Durham. It is an even rarer subspecies of the scarce northern brown argus. Rangers on the Durham coast have made it their mission to help this little butterfly survive. Adults feed primarily on wild thyme, while its larvae feed on common rock rose. That's the Durham Argus butterfly. Isolated patches of rock rose, the beautiful little yellow plants in the bottom right of the screen, are found on south-facing grassy slopes of the Durham coast. This yellow flowered plant, vital to the butterfly's survival, has become the focus of rangers' efforts to boost the species' chances of a successful future. Our volunteer task days, starting soon, will really help conserve this habitat. Our theme Accessing the Sea will focus on making it as easy as possible for people to enjoy the seascape and adopt pro-marine patterns of behaviour. Barriers come in many forms, from economical, confidence, social, cultural and physical. We will address some of those barriers over the next few years. So whether you're after a stroll on the England coast path or keen to gain sailing qualifications, take up a new hobby, hopefully we'll be here to help. The England Coast Path is a national trail. As of this year, will become the longest managed coastal trail in the world, around 2,795 miles long, connects all of our communities, with an estimated 400,000 people using this stretch of it between the Tyne and the Tees each year. The path aims to stay as close to the coast as possible. Many places that means you'll be walking right alongside the coast. But in some places it does have to be diverted a little bit inland. But how easy is it to navigate? I'm not quite sure. So we'll be making it very easy for walkers to follow this section of the trail by creating an identity that is recognisable and also show connections to other routes, perhaps to do a circular walk, or to even give some basic information for the casual walker, such as distances and destinations. Volunteers will then receive training to become stewards of the path, providing guardianship for the future. Along the England Coast Path, we'll have dedicated Seascape stations at various points. The name's taken from the picturesque artistic tradition of using the word stations for viewing large landscapes. Using simple signage, interpretation, seating, perhaps sound benches, we will create spaces where visitors are encouraged to think about life under the waves. However, the focus next year will very much be on the build and opening of a new centre right by Suter Lighthouse at Whitburn Coastal Park. It will create a local gateway to the coast, have a strong focus on marine life, and be a place where conservation groups can meet. A significant proportion of our digital interpretation will be housed there, such as virtual and augmented reality of shipwrecks in our submerged habitats, along with tactile exhibitions raising awareness of marine conservation priorities. We can't wait for this to start being built later this year and open next year, and it'll be owned and managed by the National Trust. Just a short walk north of Souter is Marsden Bay, you probably know it, which is a haven for wildlife and visitors, with stories of smuggling in the now popular Marsden Grotto. Just quickly, I'll let you know about some work that's already been able to take place despite COVID, and that's a demolition of Redwall Steps to the north of the bay. As you can see by the top photo, there was a concrete access that led to an old canoe store and a lifeguard station. These have now been removed, as you can see in the bottom photo, with plans to install a timber, more natural access later this year after the next nesting season. The National Trust and their Bluescapes officer will be working with the Royal Yachting Association to offer a programme of immersive activity in, on or near the sea. Imagine being able to go into the water, perhaps for the first time. There'll be some fantastic opportunities starting later this year. While the young people are learning how to sail, they will also complete a programme called the Green Blue, a UK-wide programme created by British Marine and the Royal Yachting Association in 2005 to enable the UK recreational boating sector to decrease its impact on the environment. Ultimately, we want to recruit volunteer sea champions, linking in with our coastal groups, citizen science activities and other events. This leads me on nicely to our final theme, the blue future, arguably the most important one of all. There's no escaping the fact that threats to the marine environment are growing, and we are its biggest threat. Funded by Northumbrian Water, our beach care officer will coordinate a programme of litter picks and surveys to reduce beach and marine litter. We will also gather evidence through coastal water monitoring to look at where action is needed most. We can't wait to find some of our new superheroes coming to help us at the beach. So how on earth are we going to do all of this? Well, this is the team. Most of the team are just coming into post right now. It's early mid-April now, and just in time to start some activities from late spring as COVID restrictions are starting to be relaxed. But most importantly, Seascapes and the work that we will aim to be delivering over the next few years wouldn't be happening without a really tight partnership of the organisations you can see here. Many of these have worked together since Turning the Tide for at least 20 years and have kept that partnership work going to be able to constantly evolve and adapt to the different priorities that this stretch of coastline faces. So many, many thanks to all of these organisations. It'd be really great if you could follow our journey. As I said, things are really starting to happen now from late spring. We'll have a new website that will be launched within the next few weeks. We're on Twitter. We will be on many other social media platforms. And it'd be great if maybe this time next year, the following year, we can meet up in person and I can give you an update on some of the activities we've been doing. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And should you want to get in touch with me afterwards, please do. Here's my email. Contact me via Twitter or maybe through the organisers of the presentation. I'd be only too happy to give an update or speak to anyone following this presentation. Thank you.